At the birthday party, Lydia's ex-boyfriend, Zachary, gently fed her a bite of cake, then wiped the corner of her mouth with the napkin. All eyes immediately turned to me. Everyone expected a reaction. A glare. A clenched jaw. Maybe even a scene. Instead, I led the applause. "To love that lasts forever," I said, smiling as if I meant it. "Why not seal it with a kiss, while you're at it?" Last month, on Zachary's birthday, Lydia went with him to the beach to watch the sunrise. When I confronted her, voice raised, hands trembling, she rolled her eyes and called me paranoid. Said it was a group thing. Said I always overreacted. We didn't speak for 2 weeks. Yesterday, Lydia sent me a screenshot of a dinner reservation. My name, the restaurant, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I knew exactly what that meant. Her peace offering. Every time we fought, every silent treatment, every tense night, it was always me who made the first move to fix things. I'd reach out, try to talk. She'd stay distant, until she was ready to forgive me. Then she'd bring me a gift. Or check in on me sweetly. Just enough tenderness to remind me what it felt like to be wanted. I'd melt, every time. The hurt would fade, replaced by the familiar warmth of her affection. That's been our pattern for years. She'd slap me with one hand, then soothe me with the other. And I, pitifully grateful, would forget the pain the moment I tasted the sweetness. Our entire relationship was a weather vane, turning cold or warm entirely at her whim. I was her kite. She held the string. Tight. My joy, my anger, my disappointments, none of them really belonged to me. They were hers to control. And maybe that's on me. Maybe I've never had the guts to walk away. Because I loved her more than my own dignity. But yesterday, when she sent that dinner reservation, something inside me didn't feel the same. There was no flutter in my chest. No relief. No burst of happiness like before. In the past, even just remembering my birthday would have been enough to make me feel special. I'd remind her every year, days in advance, practically count down until she bought me something. But this year, I forgot. And she didn't. Her message popped up during work, "Dinner tomorrow night, I booked your favorite place," and only then did I realize, it was my birthday. I texted back, "Got it. See you tomorrow night." Then I turned off my phone and got back to work. I didn't smile to myself. Didn't daydream about the night. The usual sweetness was gone. Tonight, right after work, she texted, "See you at the restaurant." I got there first. The reservation was for 7 o'clock. I showed up at 6:30. At 8 o'clock, she still hadn't come. I called, no answer. Texted, no reply. By 9:30, the waiter came over and asked gently, "Would you like to order?" "We close at 10:30. I nodded. I ate a steak. Drank a glass of red. Took my time. At 10:30 sharp, I stood up, thanked the staff, and walked out into the night, alone. As I stood by the curb waiting for my ride, I opened Instagram and saw Zachary's latest post. The caption read, "You are my sense of belonging." The photo was a soft focus profile of Lydia sitting on a couch. The moment I saw it, I didn't feel angry. Not even hurt or betrayed. Just still. Strangely still. If anything, it felt like solving a puzzle I'd already known the answer to. Of course. I knew it. Every missed dinner, every unanswered call, it had always been about Zachary. The odd thing was, this time, I wasn't even sad. When I got home, I showered, brushed my teeth, and went straight to bed. Somewhere in the middle of the night, deep in sleep, I heard the front door open. Lydia. I didn't move. I was too tired to care. I kept my eyes shut and pretended to be asleep, not in the mood for any kind of conversation. Her footsteps padded softly across the hardwood floor. Then they stopped, right beside the bed. She stood there for a long time. Even with my eyes closed, I could feel her staring at me. What the hell is wrong with her? She comes home in the middle of the night and just watches me? It's seriously annoying. People are trying to sleep. What's she even expecting? For me to be in the living room with all the lights on, pacing angrily like I used to, demanding explanations, waiting to pick a fight? She should be thrilled I'm not. After all, whenever I used to lose it, whenever I sat there broken and boiling over, she'd just look at me with that same dead stare, like I was some drama queen performing for attention. No empathy. No guilt. Just annoyance. Disgust. She used to bother pretending. Back when I called her out on Zachary, she'd at least deny it. Insist they were just friends. Swear nothing ever happened. But over time, she stopped even trying. She let me rage. Burn myself out. Then watch as I crumbled. Now I'm done. Finally. And looking back, I get it. I probably did look pathetic. All that emotion, all those breakdowns, probably looked like a guy coming undone for no good reason. No wonder she pulled away. But right now, lying in the dark, I don't feel the urge to ask anything. I don't even want to know. I just want to sleep. She stood there for a while longer, still hoping I might say something. Then I heard her voice, low and careful. Elliot? I didn't respond. Not a twitch. A moment later, she gave up and walked away. I heard water running in the bathroom. The sound was soft, steady, oddly calming. Before I knew it, I'd drifted off again. I didn't even notice when she finally came to bed. The next morning, I got up and went straight to work. I buried myself in tasks all day, and time passed quickly because of it. After work, I grabbed dinner out before heading home. When I walked through the door, Lydia was sitting on the couch. "You're home early," I said, kicking off my shoes. "No overtime tonight," she replied. "Got it." I nodded, setting my bag down and turning toward the study. "Elliot," she called out behind me. "I actually bought your birthday gift a while ago. Yesterday." "Thanks." I took the small, elegant box from her hand before she could finish. Inside was a beautiful watch. "It's nice." "I like it," I said with a smile. "I'll wear it tomorrow." As I turned to go, she grabbed my arm. "I'm sorry about last night," she said quickly. "I really was on my way to the restaurant, but Zachary called. His ex showed up at his place again. He sounded overwhelmed. I just thought I should help. As a friend." "I believe you," I said, cutting her off gently. "It must feel helpless being hounded by someone like that. You've told me how unstable she can be." I picked up my bag. "Anyway, I've got some unfinished work. I'll be in the study." "Wait," she said, still holding on. I looked at her, puzzled. "Yeah? I haven't eaten yet." "Oh. I already did. You can just fix yourself something." I gently pulled my arm free and walked into the study. Not long after I sat down, I heard the front door slam shut. When I stepped back out, Lydia was gone. She had brought a gift. She had given me the chance to make peace. And I hadn't taken it. She was angry. We were back in another Cold War. But this time, something felt different. I wasn't spiraling like I used to. I wasn't desperate to fix it. In fact, after a few days of silence, I felt lighter. At night, Lydia slept in the guest room. I had the whole bed to myself, and for the first time in a long time, I actually slept well. In the mornings, I stopped waking up early to make her breakfast. That gave me an extra half hour of sleep. At work, my mind wasn't preoccupied with her face, her moods, her texts. I didn't feel the urge to message her every couple of hours. I was more focused. More productive. Tasks that used to drag out until evening were suddenly done ahead of schedule. And after work, I couldn't even be bothered to go home and cook. Back when I was still trying to make sure Lydia ate healthy, I taught myself to cook, really cook. Weeknight dinners, balanced meals, careful portions. I'd head home right after work and make sure something warm was on the table. But Lydia had a busy social calendar. Between dinner parties, client meetups, and spontaneous nights out, I was lucky if she ate at home twice a week. Now that I wasn't revolving around her anymore, I found myself with something I hadn't had in years: time. I finished an entire TV series in just 3 nights. At the office, I overheard one of the new hires, this young woman fresh out of college, talking about the professional certification she was studying for. It hit me like a slap. She'd been here for less than a year and was already planning her next move. Meanwhile, I'd been floating along for years, unfocused, stagnant. Just getting through each day. And why? Because all I ever cared about was Lydia. After graduation, my biggest life goal was simple: marry Lydia. I still haven't achieved it. For the longest time, she was the center of everything. My entire life plan revolved around her. I even thought, if we got married and she wanted me to quit my job and be a stay-at-home husband, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Being her husband. Having a kid. Taking care of our little family. That was my definition of happiness. That was the future I dreamed about. But now that the fog's lifted, I can see how misplaced that dream really was. All this time, I gave, and got no real commitment in return. No ring. No promises. Nothing close to reciprocity. And professionally? I was a mess. Unmotivated. Unimpressive. But somehow, that new girl's ambition woke something up in me. I decided I needed to do better. I started asking questions. Taking notes. Bought the prep books and began studying for the same certification. Every night after work, I'd grab a quick bite out, then head home and disappear into the study. I'd study until I couldn't keep my eyes open. Lydia, still angry I imagine, had been coming home late these past few nights. It suited me just fine. The quiet helped me concentrate. During lunch break, I scrolled through my phone and noticed something unusual. Lydia had posted on Instagram. No caption. Just a photo. A table set for 2. A few home-cooked dishes. 2 place settings. And in the corner of the frame, a hand wearing the bracelet I'd once bought her. I knew her too well. It was a staged moment. A silent message. She wanted me to see it. Wanted me to know she was having dinner with Zachary. Wanted to get a rise out of me. But I didn't feel the jealousy. Or the anger. Not anymore. I didn't reach for my phone to confront her, didn't type out a bitter message or demand an explanation. I just looked at the photo once, then kept scrolling. That evening, Lydia called. "I'll come find you after work," she said, her voice flat, emotionless. My first instinct was resistance. No need. "I'm working late," I lied, almost without thinking. "What time will you finish?" she asked calmly. 8, I said, forcing the lie to hold. "Okay. I'll wait downstairs at 8, she replied, and hung up. To stay consistent, I didn't leave after work. Instead, I took out my study materials and kept reviewing in the office. At 8 sharp, I packed up my bag and headed downstairs. The moment I stepped outside, I saw her car parked a few yards away. Familiar. Predictable. But what I didn't expect was the passenger seat already taken. Zachary. He smiled at me through the windshield. "I just had dinner with Lydia," he said as I opened the door. She offered to drop me off on the way. I mumbled, nodding. I opened the rear door and got in the back. If Zachary was in the car, I never sat up front. We'd argued about that more than once. But Lydia always took his side. She said he got carsick easily, that it made more sense for him to sit in the front. Told me I was being petty. I once told her the passenger seat felt like mine, like something that belonged to our relationship. She laughed. Said I was being dramatic. When it came to this seat, I never won. And every time it happened, it ate away at me. But tonight? I didn't feel anything. I'd worked all day. Spent another 2 hours cramming for my certification exam. The moment I sat down, sleep started tugging at my eyelids. Up front, Lydia was in high spirits. Zachary, that place was incredible. Seriously. Next time, we're definitely going back, she said, practically glowing. Zachary grinned. If you liked it, then sure, next time it is. But, Lydia giggled, you'll still help me cut the steak, right? You're not sick of doing that by now? Not at all, he said easily. I'm used to it. Next time, I'll cut yours, she teased. Nah, you just sit back and enjoy it, he chuckled, then turned his head suddenly, locking eyes with me in the rearview mirror. What about Ronan, he said, mocking. Do you still cut his steak for him? I remembered a reality show once, some celebrity had said she loved steak, but if no one cut it for her, she'd rather not eat it at all. She hated using the knife herself. The first time I ever took Lydia out for steak, I cut the whole plate into perfect slices for her. She paused mid-bite, stared at me with this distant, icy look, and said, thanks. But I have hands. I can do it myself. The one who loves more always ends up humiliated. I put my knife down. And after that, I never touched a steak knife around her again. I looked up at Zachary. The lighting inside the car was dim, but I could still see the smugness in his eyes. The challenge. That was always his game, poke just enough to get under my skin, then sit back and watch Lydia scold me for overreacting. He played it well. Over and over. Like clockwork. But tonight? I didn't take the bait. I wasn't interested in sparring with him. Not anymore. 5. Zachary must have realized I wasn't rising to it, because he frowned for a beat, then turned cheerfully back toward Lydia, grinning as if nothing had happened. She spoke to him in that soft, airy tone she always reserved for him. Their voices hummed in the front seat, easy and familiar. As they chatted and laughed, my eyelids grew heavy. The sound of their conversation began to fade, like a distant radio signal drifting out of range. When I came to, the car had stopped outside our building. Lydia sat quietly in the driver's seat. Zachary was gone. You didn't wake me? I asked, sitting up and pushing the door open. She didn't answer. Just followed me out of the car and into the building, silent. It wasn't until we'd stepped inside the apartment that she finally spoke. You were really tired, huh? What? You actually fell asleep in the car. While Zachary and I were still talking. Yeah, I muttered. Guess I was pretty tired. I wasn't in the mood to talk. All I wanted was a hot shower and my bed. She suddenly launched into an explanation. That dinner tonight? It was Tina's group, the girls from college. You remember. They always invite Zachary. They're all close with him. I didn't pick him up, he just happened to be there. And since it was on the way, I figured I'd give him a ride. I blinked. That was new. Back when I used to demand answers about why she was always with Zachary, she'd dismiss me with a wave. No patience, no explanations. Like my questions weren't worth the air they took up. Now, I wasn't asking. And she was volunteering the details. Okay, I said, heading for the bathroom. I was going to invite you too, you know. But you said you were working late. So I waited until after dinner to come pick you up. I get it, I said over my shoulder. I'm gonna shower. I didn't wait for a response. After the shower, I went straight to bed. The next evening after work, I stepped outside and saw Lydia's car waiting again. This time, Zachary wasn't in it. I opened the rear door and slid into the back seat without a word. Lydia glanced at me through the mirror. She looked like she wanted to say something, but changed her mind. And honestly, sitting in the back had a certain appeal to it, like she was my driver. Felt kind of nice. In hindsight, I probably should have stopped caring about the front seat a long time ago. Maya's moving into her new place today, Lydia said as she started the car. She's having a barbecue and invited us over. Maya was one of her college roommates. Coincidentally, all 4 of Lydia's college roommates had ended up staying in the same city after graduation. They were close, tight enough to still meet up regularly, go on trips, host dinners, celebrate everything and nothing. Back in college, Lydia had a thing for Zachary. Her roommates had practically formed a council, coaching her through it, offering advice, coming up with strategies. She never won him over. But that didn't stop Zachary from blending into their group like a natural extension. Over the years, he dated a few women, but he always drew a line. A girlfriend is a girlfriend, he'd say. Friends are friends. And Lydia? She'd always be a friend. Recently, he'd broken up with his latest girlfriend and started showing up again, at dinners, hangouts, game nights. Every time I saw Lydia doting on him, my blood pressure spiked. I fought. I argued. I even yelled. None of it changed anything. Eventually, I stopped going to their group gatherings altogether. Out of sight, out of mind. You guys go have fun, I said. Just drop me home first. I couldn't pretend I wanted to be there. Lydia looked over. We'll head back right after dinner. It won't go late. Maya specifically said she wants you there. Says it's been too long. I sighed. Fine. We arrived at Maya's new apartment and waited outside the door. Lydia rang the bell. The moment the door opened, someone launched out of the house like a rocket and jumped straight onto Lydia's back, arms wrapped tight around her neck. The impact almost knocked her over, but she barely flinched, like she was used to it. Lydia. You're late. 10 seconds of piggyback punishment. Zachary shouted, riding her shoulders like a triumphant monkey. Lydia froze. Then slowly, she looked up at me. The panic in her eyes was unmistakable. I gave her a smile. Calm. Light. Polite. She blinked, stunned for a beat, then shoved Zachary off her back. Caught off guard, he stumbled and nearly fell. Ow, he snapped, smacking her lightly on the shoulder. What was that for? I almost twisted my ankle. Then, as if just noticing me, he looked up and exclaimed, "Oh hey, Elliot. You came. That thing just now, me and Lydia were messing around. It's an old game. Back in college, if someone lost a bet, we'd do piggyback punishments. Totally harmless. You don't mind, right?" "Not at all," I said, picking up the TV remote. "You two do your thing. Don't mind me. I'll just hang out here and watch some TV." I turned my attention to the screen and started browsing the options like I genuinely cared. Behind me, Zachary laughed awkwardly. "You know, Elliot, Lydia's stronger than she looks. She can carry me for like 15 seconds. Impressive, right?" "Oh yeah?" I said, setting down the remote. "Never seen that before. Why don't you guys show me now? I'd love to see it in action." Lydia stood up abruptly, face blank. "I'm going to help Maya in the kitchen," she said, disappearing down the hallway without looking back. The rest of us sat there in the living room, staring at one another, unsure what to say. At dinner, I sat to Lydia's left. Zachary was on her right. "Oh no, I got a piece of lamb," he said dramatically, then dropped it into Lydia's bowl. They used to pull this kind of boundary-blurring nonsense all the time. The only difference now? It didn't affect me anymore. Not even a flicker of emotion. Maya's cooking was solid. I focused on the food and ended up eating way too much without even realizing it. After dinner, Zachary suggested a game. I hadn't reviewed anything all day, so I decided to head out early. "You guys go ahead," I said, standing up. "I'm heading back." "I'll come with," Lydia said, rising too. "No need," I replied, sincerely. "You can stay. I'll grab a ride." But something about that set her off. Her expression darkened, her voice turned cold. "Fine. Let's go, then. Right now." "I'll come too," Zachary added. "Didn't drive today, mind if I tag along?" When we got to the car, I opened the back door without hesitation and climbed in. The moment I sat down, I pulled out my phone and opened my study app. I'd promised myself 2 hours of prep every day until the exam. Work had been non-stop today, and I hadn't done a minute yet. No time to waste. I figured I could knock out half an hour during the drive home, and only need 90 minutes more once I got back. I was a few questions in when I realized how unusually quiet the car was. "Lydia," Zachary finally spoke. "You've been so cold tonight. Every time I say something, it's just or oh. If this keeps up, I'm gonna start getting upset." A beat of silence. Then Lydia said, "I'm tired. Don't distract me while I'm driving." Zachary let out a sharp exhale. Humph. He didn't say another word. But when we dropped him off, he made sure to slam the door extra hard, just in case his mood hadn't been clear enough. Back at the apartment, I went straight into the study and didn't come out for 90 minutes. When I finally did, Lydia was already in the guest room. I let out a quiet sigh of relief. We'd been sleeping in separate rooms ever since the fight started. And knowing Lydia, prideful as ever, she'd never make the first move to fix things. Not unless I folded first. Honestly, I was fine with that. In the morning, I stepped out of the bedroom and was surprised to see Lydia already awake. "You can shower first," she said from the couch, looking up at me. "No rush. I'll drive you today." "No need," I said. "I'm riding with a coworker." As I headed for the door, she followed behind me. "Come on, just take my car. It's not polite to trouble someone else." "It's not trouble. I'm paying for it." Lydia had always said she wanted a car of her own. So after we bought it, she was the one driving. At first, she was happy to give me rides to work. Then it became a hassle. Our offices weren't exactly on the same route. Driving me meant she had to take a slight detour, and apparently that extra 5 minutes wasn't worth it. One morning she tossed off, "Just take the subway from now on. I want to sleep a bit longer." She never drove me to work again. As for picking me up after work, there was always a reason: overtime, dinner with coworkers, plans with friends. Somehow, she was never free at my clock-out time. Eventually, a colleague of mine posted in the Slack carpool channel asking if anyone lived along her route. She offered rides for a small fee. Turned out, we were a match. So now, every morning, I ride with her. It's cheaper than the subway and saves time. As for evenings, if I rode with her both ways, I'd be paying nearly $100 extra a month. And since I'm not in a rush at night, I just take the subway home to save some cash. This morning, Lydia dropped me off at the gate just as my coworker pulled up. I climbed into her car and headed to the office. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. Lydia, is it just you in that carpool, or are there others? Me, just me. We're the only two on that route. Lydia, let me drive you from now on. A young guy and girl riding together every day, people might start talking. Me, no one's talking. Besides, didn't you say you wanted to sleep in? Lydia, starting tomorrow, I'll wake up when you do. Me, let's talk next month. I already paid for this month. She didn't reply. I turned my focus back to work. At lunch, my phone buzzed again. A photo. Lydia, lunch at the company cafeteria. Not bad, huh? I didn't respond. A moment later, another message. Lydia, what did you have for lunch? I stared at the screen. Was she sharing her day with me? Or something else? I couldn't tell. I used to be the one doing all of this. I scrolled up through our chat history, blocks and blocks of messages from me. Long paragraphs. Updates. Thoughts. Feelings. All one-sided. Because I loved Lydia, I wanted to share everything with her. A cute dog I saw on the street. A new soda flavor I liked. Praise or criticism from my boss. A scraped knee. A beautiful new corner of the city I stumbled into. Small things. Daily things. All of it felt worth sharing with her. When we first started dating, she used to respond. There was a rhythm between us. But over time, it turned into this pattern. I'd send a wall of text, and she'd reply to the last sentence, if that. Usually just a couple of words. I knew most of the time, she didn't even bother reading the whole thing. At first, I was disappointed. Then I got used to it. I figured, it's my fault for loving her this much. My fault for being the one who always cared more. Eventually, the urge to share faded. I stopped wanting to send her anything at all. Looking through our recent messages, I realized something. It's been a full week since I last messaged her. Not a single text. It was Friday. A coworker suggested we grab dinner together after work. I usually said no to things like that. Back when I first started working, I'd occasionally join team dinners. But Lydia often ate out with her college friends. She was only home for dinner 2 or 3 nights a week. One time, I went out with coworkers, and it just happened to be one of the rare nights she came home early. She called, asking where I was. I felt awful. She was barely ever home for dinner, and I'd missed one of the few chances we had. After that, I stopped going to office dinners altogether. Every night after work, I went straight home. Cooked. Waited. Just in case Lydia decided to show up. Because of that, my relationships with coworkers stayed shallow. Even after a few years, I was just a polite face in the office, nothing more. But this time, something shifted. I turned to the person next to me and said, "Where are we meeting tonight? Count me in." Their eyes lit up. "Whoa, Elliot's coming? No one's bailing now, we're officially making this a full team night." Just before clocking out, Lydia called. "I'll come pick you up," she said. "Let's get groceries. It's been a while since we made dinner together at home." "No need," I said. "I'm going out with my coworkers." A pause. "Can't you? I've skipped every gathering so far," I cut her off. "It's starting to look bad. I really shouldn't miss this one." It was the first time in ages that the entire department was going out together. Everyone was excited. I had a few drinks. For once, I let myself enjoy it. During dinner, Lydia called me several times. She wanted to know what time it would end. Said she'd come pick me up. I told her not to. I wasn't sure when it would wrap. Everyone was having a good time, and she should just go to bed. "Where exactly is the restaurant?" she asked. "I'll wait outside." "It's late, and you've been drinking. It's not safe for you to go home alone. Wait, what? Lydia said that? I honestly couldn't believe it. This was the same Lydia who once refused to pick me up from the airport at 1 a.m. after a business trip because she had work in the morning and couldn't lose sleep. Are all women this changeable? At 9:30, she messaged again, said she was already outside the restaurant. When we finally wrapped up around 10, I stepped outside and saw her waiting at the curb. "You've been drinking?" she asked, walking over and steadying me by the arm. "Just a little red wine," I mumbled. My tolerance was embarrassingly low. Even half a glass made me tipsy. She helped me into the passenger seat and buckled the seatbelt for me. Then she got into the driver's seat, but instead of starting the engine, she leaned over and wrapped her arms around me. "So this is what it feels like, waiting for someone," she whispered. "I'm sorry. For all the times I left you waiting. I won't do it again." I frowned, pulling away. "Can we just go? I'm tired." She laughed softly and ruffled my hair. "You can't handle your liquor, can you? I should keep an eye on you. Someone could sell you off and you wouldn't even know it." It was like Lydia had been replaced by someone else. Completely different. Unrecognizable. Suddenly, she was the clingy one. She picked me up after work every day, stopped going out with her college friends, insisted we eat dinner together at home. When I told her I needed time to study for my certification exam and didn't have the energy to cook, she said she'd do it. And, unbelievably, she did. Every night, she stopped at the supermarket near our building. Walked in the door with groceries, headed straight for the kitchen. I'd assumed Lydia couldn't cook. After all, she'd never once made me a meal. But turns out, she could cook just fine. She just never wanted to. Zachary had even posted photos of her cooking on Instagram. Now, it was like she was putting on a show, trying to prove herself. Every night, a different dish. No repeats. After dinner, she wouldn't even let me do the dishes. She'd practically shove me toward the study. "Go study," she said. "I'll handle everything." On the surface, it looked perfect. But the more thoughtful she became, the more on edge I felt. There was no comfort in it. Only pressure. Especially when she kept poking her head into the study while I was working. "Want some water? Need fruit?" Her interruptions broke my focus. And I hated it. So I lied. Told her I had to work overtime. That I wouldn't be home until 8 every night. In reality, I stayed at the office. And studied there, alone. Without her interruptions, I finally had some peace and quiet. After work that day, I took out my study materials and got to it. Half an hour in, the entire building lost power. I went downstairs to check with the security guard. He shrugged, said something must have tripped the lines, and they were still trying to get a technician. I packed up my things and headed straight across the street to the cafe. Ordered a coffee, found a quiet corner, and worked through questions for 2 solid hours. When I finished, I walked back to the office building. I'd told Lydia I was working overtime and not to worry about picking me up. She insisted on coming anyway. As I reached the curb, her car pulled up right on time. Lately, she'd been unusually talkative. Always trying to keep a conversation going, asking about work, my studying, whether I was getting along with coworkers. Even when I replied with a few half-hearted words, she kept at it. But tonight, she was silent the entire ride home. Honestly, I didn't mind. I leaned back and closed my eyes for a bit. Back at the apartment, I was taking off my shoes when Lydia finally broke the silence. "You haven't really been working overtime these past few days, have you?" I froze, then admitted it. "No. I've been driving to your office every night. I usually get there around 6:30, and I just sit in the car, waiting an hour and a half for you to come out." She paused. Her voice remained steady. "Tonight was the same. I got there early, and then the power went out. I saw you come running out of the building, but before I could call your name, you'd already crossed the street." She looked directly at me. "I followed you. Watched you sit in that cafe, head down in your study materials, until exactly 8. "Ah, you saw that," I said, awkward now. "Why didn't you come in?" She ignored the question. "You haven't been working late," she continued. "You've been studying in the office. So why not come home to do it? We're not even married yet, and you're already tired of being home? You'd rather hide in your office than be near me?" Her voice dropped, softer this time. "Tell me what I've done wrong. I'll fix it. Just tell me." I pressed my lips together, exhaled slowly. "Maybe you're right," I said. "Maybe we do need to talk. About this relationship, about where we are." But before I could go on, Lydia cut me off. "Oh, that's right," she said suddenly. "I have a work trip tomorrow. San Francisco. I need to be up early." She turned away, heading down the hall. "Let's talk when I get back, okay? Whatever it is, it can wait." I stood there a moment, staring after her. And maybe it was just my imagination, but as she walked off, I thought I saw something in her eyes. Fear. I let out a sigh. "All right. You packed your bags yet?" "Not yet." "Then you'd better get to it. I'm gonna shower." In the past, I always helped Lydia pack for her business trips. But now? I didn't have the patience anymore. The next morning, I watched her leave with her suitcase in tow, and, surprisingly, I felt a long-lost sense of relief. A few days without her. Finally, some space. Some quiet. Just me. On the third day of her trip, I got a call during my lunch break. It was Zachary. He said Lydia had come down with a bad flu. She was at Central Hospital, getting 4 fluids. I grabbed my coat and called a car. When I walked into the room, Lydia was slumped in a recliner, pale and glassy-eyed, the 4-line taped to her wrist. She looked miserable, worn down, weak, genuinely sick. "I thought you were out of town," I said, stepping closer. She opened her eyes and saw me. First surprise flickered across her face, then guilt. "How did you? Who told you I was here?" "I did." Zachary's voice came from behind me. He stepped into the room, holding a cup of hot water. He looked at me like he'd been waiting for this moment. "What the hell did you do to her?" he said sharply. "She's been crashing at Maya's place for days, too scared to even go home. Who does that to someone they're supposed to love? You've crossed a line, man." I looked back at Lydia. "You said you were on a work trip." She couldn't meet my eyes. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. I lied. I didn't go anywhere. I understood now. She was avoiding me. She knew something was broken between us. When she caught me in my lie about working late, I'd wanted to use that moment to talk, really talk. Instead, she'd responded with a lie of her own. She chose distance. Chose to hide. She would rather crash at a friend's than sit in the same room and face our truth. "Running away won't fix anything," I said. "You know that. We need to talk. Really talk." "I know," she whispered. "Just, not now. Can we wait until I feel better?" Her eyes pleaded with me. I nodded. "Fine. Rest up. I'm heading back to work." "You're not staying?" she asked softly, looking up at me like a wounded child. "It's just the flu," I said coolly. "You're an adult. You'll survive." She froze. Her eyes searched my face, wide, confused, and then wounded. Because she knew. She recognized that line. Those were her words. Once, a long time ago, when I'd been sick and called her, asking if she could come by. She had laughed. "You're a grown man. It's just a cold. Don't be so dramatic." Now the mirror had turned. And she didn't like the reflection. Last winter, I came down with a brutal fever. It hit hard and fast, and by nightfall, I ended up at the hospital. Everyone else in the waiting room had someone with them. A partner, a friend, a family member. I sat alone. Feeling cold. Small. Stupidly lonely. I couldn't help it. I called Lydia, asked if she could come. She sounded annoyed, distant. "You're a grown man," she said flatly. "Don't be so dramatic. It's just a cold. You're not gonna die without me." In the background, I heard loud music, laughter, Zachary yelling, "Lydia, come on. Let's go dance." I was shivering in a hospital chair. She was at a bar. That moment shattered something in me. But I didn't leave her. Didn't even yell. Just went silent for a few days. And like always, she said a few sweet things, and I folded. Lydia must have remembered too. Sitting there in that hospital chair, for in her arm, her voice trembled. "I'm sorry." She said it out loud. And yet, the very words she'd once thrown at me, sharp, cruel, thoughtless, had already lodged themselves like a blade in my chest. She hadn't noticed how deep they cut, until that same blade turned around. Some people can't understand pain until it happens to them. Zachary, who'd been hovering by her side the whole time, finally snapped. He looked at Lydia with concern, then glared at me. "She's sick, and you're just going to walk out? Some boyfriend you are. And now she's the one apologizing? For what?" I gave a quiet laugh. "You see? She's not lacking anyone to take care of her." Zachary straightened his back like a knight on some kind of moral crusade. "I'm not heartless like you," he said. "I'll take care of Lydia. You don't need to worry." I didn't respond. I turned and walked out. That night, Lydia didn't come home. She texted me, "I'm still staying at Maya's for now. When I feel better, let's talk." For real. But in my heart, the decision had already been made. I was done. Break up. 2 simple words. So easy to say. So damn hard to follow through. We'd been together for 7 years. Since junior year of college. 7 years of love. 7 years of memories. There was real love at the start, genuine sweetness. In college, we had time, energy, and nowhere we needed to be. Our dates stretched across every corner of Westport. That city knew us. Every photo-worthy spot had a snapshot of us grinning like idiots, frozen in time. When graduation came, we edited each other's resumes, cheered each other on at job fairs. When we both landed offers, we celebrated like we'd won the lottery, climbed up a hill, cracked open beers, sang into the wind. We rented our first apartment together. Decorated it piece by piece. Built dreams for a future that felt within reach. It was real. All of it. We were happy then. So when did we start drifting? Maybe the moment her attention started to wander. To be precise, when Zachary came back into our lives. Back in college, I'd heard Zachary's name more than a few times. At the time, Lydia and I were in the same student council department. We weren't dating yet, but we were friendly. Her friends often whispered that she had a crush on a guy named Zachary. I never met him back then. He wasn't in our major. Our paths never crossed. To me, Lydia was the golden girl. Brilliant. Talented. Driven. By sophomore year, she'd been promoted to department head. Everyone said she was the student council president's hand-picked successor. Her academic record was flawless. She won scholarships every semester. But she wasn't just impressive, she was kind. I remember once, during a council event, something went wrong. It was clearly another student's mistake. But Lydia stepped forward and took the blame herself. When I needed help, she never turned me away. Always patient. Always generous with her time. I think that's when I first started falling for her, out of admiration. Of course, her looks didn't hurt either. She had that perfect kind of beauty, slim, elegant, poised. Not a single flaw to find. To me, Lydia was flawless. The kind of person who made your heart skip just by walking into a room. And yet, even she couldn't win Zachary's heart. She chased him for 2 years. And never caught him. After Zachary started dating someone else, Lydia visibly changed. The light in her smile dimmed. There was always a trace of bitterness in it after that. I remember feeling so sorry for her. So angry on her behalf. How could someone like Zachary not fall for a girl like her? Junior year, on an ordinary night after a council meeting, I finally worked up the courage to tell Lydia how I felt. To my surprise, she said yes. And after that, everything changed. She started smiling more. Laughing more. Her whole energy shifted. From the way she looked at me, I knew, I wasn't the only one who had fallen. We were happy. Really happy. Toward the end of college, we ran into Zachary on campus one afternoon. It was the first time I'd ever seen him in person. Lydia froze, her eyes locked on him, unblinking. That was when I realized. This was him. The boy she chased. The boy who said no. The boy she could never have. He was walking hand in hand with his girlfriend. And I finally understood why he might have turned Lydia down. His girlfriend wasn't particularly attractive. In fact, she was noticeably overweight, twice his size, maybe more. But her clothes screamed luxury. Everything she wore was designer. Zachary's own shoes? A limited edition pair worth over $20,000. That's when it hit me. Lydia never lost because she wasn't good enough. She lost because she couldn't compete where it mattered to him. She was the daughter of 2 working-class parents from a small town. Everything she had, she earned herself. Zachary came from a world she could never afford to enter. After graduation, Zachary moved to another city, Chicago. But 3 years ago, he came back. And just like that, he started reappearing in our lives, slipping into our routines under the label of just a friend. Lydia's emotions shifted with his presence. Slowly, she began to drift. Whenever Zachary called, no matter when or where, she answered. Even if she was with me, she'd go. I argued. I begged. I made scenes. But it only pushed her further away. She grew more distant, more impatient. I thought about leaving, more than once. But I couldn't accept it. I hadn't done anything wrong. Why should I be the one to let go? No matter how badly we fought, no matter how wide the cracks grew between us, I never said the words. Let's break up. Because I knew if I said it, Lydia might agree. And once it was said, there'd be no turning back. The truth was, I still loved her. And as long as there was love, I couldn't bear to end it. I thought I'd keep holding on. That I'd just keep going. Forever, if I had to. But I never expected this. I didn't know love could run out. That one day, all the love I'd been pouring into her, slowly, quietly, would just drain away. Until nothing was left. And when I realized she no longer had the power to move me, to hurt me, to stir anything in me at all, I knew. I didn't love her anymore. There was no grief in that moment. Only relief. The decision to end it wasn't impulsive. It was calm. Considered. and final. Once I understood the love was gone, there was no reason to stay. I used to imagine our whole future. Marriage. A kid. A home filled with laughter and grocery lists and laundry days and road trips and quiet Sunday mornings. I saw it all, so clearly. So often. But maybe, cutting your losses isn't a failure. Maybe it's a form of wisdom. I'm 28. Not young, exactly. But not old either. Maybe I'll never love someone this deeply again. So what? Love isn't the only thing in life. I'm 28, and I'm still in time to start over. To rebuild. To grow into something new. I don't regret this relationship. It began with real joy. With affection. With light. I knew what it felt like to be loved. And I knew what it meant to love with everything I had. I gave. I hoped. I tried. And I've come out the other side, more grounded, more patient, more whole. No, it wasn't a waste. It made me who I am. I know how to love. And now, I know how to let go. The next day, and the day after that, Lydia still didn't come home. I didn't know if she was still avoiding me. But I had made up my mind, if she didn't show tonight, I'd go find her and face things head on. Then my phone rang. It was my mom, Linda. She told me my dad, Robert, had been complaining about leg pain for a few days. He'd gone to a clinic, but the results were inconclusive. I felt a pang of worry. Why don't you both come here tomorrow? I said. I'll take Dad for a full checkup at a real hospital. While you're at it, you should get a full physical too. They live in Pinebrook, a small town over 3 hours away by train from Westport. I took 2 days off and met them at the station around 9 the next morning. After a full set of tests, we were relieved to hear Robert's issue wasn't serious, just something that needed rest and care. Linda's checkup came back clean too. With one more day of leave and the weekend ahead, I decided to take them out for a little tour. I booked them a hotel nearby and spent 3 full days showing them around the city, just the 3 of us. We ate well, explored, and took plenty of photos. On the way to drop them off at the train station, I posted a picture of the 3 of us on Instagram. Barely a minute after I hit post, my phone rang again. Lydia. Your parents are here? Yeah. Why didn't you tell me? Why would I? I could have come with you. Shown them around with you. You told me you're not good with parents. That you weren't ready for that kind of introduction, remember? She went quiet. Let's meet tonight, I said. This can't keep dragging on. We need to talk. I hung up before she could reply. Lydia and I had been together for 7 years. And in all that time, neither of us had ever met each other's parents. At first, it made sense. We were young. Marriage wasn't on the table yet. But once I turned 25, I started thinking about it seriously. 3 years ago, I brought it up, casually suggested she come home with me for a visit. She said it was too sudden. That she hadn't talked to her parents. That she wasn't ready. Last June, when my parents came to Westport, I asked if she could spend a day with us. Just join us for a meal. She declined again. Said she wasn't good at that kind of thing. Said she wasn't ready. Then came the guilt trip. She told me I was always pressuring her. After that, I stopped asking. At the train station, we still had some time before departure, so I sat with my parents on a bench outside, chatting and watching the crowd drift by. When it was nearly time, I walked them toward the entrance gate. Elliot. A familiar voice called from behind. I turned and saw Lydia, arms full of gift bags, hurrying toward us. Hello. I'm Elliot's girlfriend, she said brightly, not waiting for anyone to ask. Sorry I haven't been around these few days, I've been caught up with work. I brought some supplements for you both, just a small gesture. I hope you don't mind. My parents looked at her, then at me, clearly confused. They didn't know if this was real, or some kind of misunderstanding. There's no time, I said quickly, ushering them toward the gate. I'll explain later. Just go. Still bewildered, they nodded and headed inside. As soon as they were out of sight, I turned to Lydia, my expression hardening. Who told you to show up here? I'm your girlfriend. Your parents came all this way, how could I not show my face? It would have been rude. Now you care about being rude? That's new, I said quietly. That wasn't your attitude before. She winced. I wasn't mature then. I know I was wrong. I'm sorry. Well, what you did today was out of line, I said. Come on. Let's go home. There's something I need to say. Back at the apartment, I didn't sit on ceremony. I went straight in. No more pretending. I've been lying to myself, ignoring how broken things have been between us. But the truth is, it hasn't been right for a long time. And I've thought about this. Seriously. I've made my decision. Lydia, I think we should. Elliot, she cut me off. Her voice was trembling slightly. Let's get married. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a men's diamond ring. Elegant. Polished. Heart-shaped. I froze. I haven't been home the past few days because I've been planning this, she said softly. I wanted to propose to you. I searched everywhere for the right ring. This one, it's the exact design you liked, isn't it? She was right. It was. I remembered once showing her that design on my phone. Just a quiet moment on the couch, I held up the screen, asked what she thought of it. Back then, I wasn't just asking about a ring. I was testing the waters. Trying to understand where she stood on marriage. She barely looked at it. Ugly as hell, she said, pushing the phone away and flipping a page in her magazine. I remember the disappointment like a cold wind in my chest. Because at that point, I already knew. I wanted to marry her. It was a dream I used to replay in my head, sometimes while falling asleep, sometimes in the middle of a quiet afternoon. But not anymore. Now she was offering the very thing I used to long for. And I felt nothing. Hope has a shelf life. When it expires, it doesn't come back. Elliot, she said again, holding out the box. Will you marry me? I looked her in the eyes. Steady. Final. No. The word was sharp, stripped of hesitation. Each letter carrying the weight of every silent year. As if she'd already expected the answer, Lydia didn't even flinch. No shock. No protest. Just a painful, twisted smile, one that looked like it might collapse into tears. Was it my birthday? She asked softly. What? Was that the day you stopped loving me? Her voice cracked. The night I didn't show up for your birthday dinner. The next morning, you didn't make breakfast. You stopped texting. I went out, and you didn't call a dozen times asking where I was. You didn't beg me to come home. Zachary got close, and you didn't even react. She took a shaky breath. Everything changed after that night. That's when it started, right? I shook my head. No. That wasn't the beginning. That was just the final straw. The last ounce of weight that broke something already cracked. The truth is, we were falling apart long before that. One day at a time. It just, finally caught up to us. She nodded, eyes glassy. I know I messed up. A lot. I did so many things wrong. And I know you were angry, I understand now. But please, just give me another chance. I'll fix it. I swear, I'll change. I'll become the kind of girlfriend you want. The kind you'd want to marry. Her voice trembled as she rushed on. I'll make you breakfast every morning. I'll drive you to work, pick you up. No one else will ever sit in that front seat again. On vacations, I'll go wherever you want to go. I'll stop going out with friends. I'll be home every night. I won't ever forget your birthday again. I won't miss any anniversary. Nothing. She searched my face desperately. I know I screwed things up with Zachary. I get that now. I should have set boundaries, and I didn't. But I'll fix it. I won't see him again. I'll delete his number, his texts, everything. I looked at her. Still silent. Then I let out a slow breath. That's the thing, Lydia. You know exactly what you did wrong, don't you? You know what makes a good partner. You know what hurts and what doesn't. You knew the whole time what you were doing, and you still did it. When I brought it up, you didn't apologize. You made me the problem. I paused, my voice steady. You didn't act out of confusion. You acted like someone who knew I wouldn't leave. You knew I loved you more. You thought that gave you the right to stop trying. That's what happens when someone feels too safe in someone else's love. They stop earning it. She broke down. I'm sorry, she whispered, over and over. But I'd heard it before. We're not in love anymore, I said quietly. Breaking up is the best ending for us. No. Lydia cried. I still love you. I've always loved you. I'm sorry, I replied, calm and clear. I don't feel your love. What I felt was your coldness, your indifference, your disregard. You say you love me, but I saw the way you loved Zachary. You dropped everything for him, answered every call, protected him like he was fragile glass. That was love. I thought I still had feelings for him, she admitted, her voice breaking. But it was an illusion. When I realized you were slipping away, that's when I knew. It's always been you. The thought of losing you, that nearly killed me. Zachary's had so many girlfriends, but I never felt this way about any of them. But you, just seeing you ride in another woman's car made me jealous. I was stupid, blind. I never realized what I truly felt. With Zachary, it was just unfinished business. Pride. My own messed up ego. My fault. I don't love you anymore, I said softly. I'm done forcing myself to be with someone who doesn't see me. I'm a good person. I deserve a love that's returned. Someone who chooses me, fully, every day. Lydia dropped to the floor, covering her face, knees drawn in, completely undone. I turned to pack. That's when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Zachary, hair disheveled, carrying a backpack, panic in his eyes. You blocked me on Instagram? You're not picking up my calls? He stepped inside, frantic. How could you just cut me off like that? He collapsed to the floor in front of Lydia, his voice breaking. My apartment's flooded. I have nowhere else to go. You're the only one I trust. Before I could say anything, he turned and glared at me like I was the intruder. This is Lydia's place. You have no right to say no. I raised an eyebrow. I didn't say no, I said evenly. You two can do whatever you want. And with that, I walked back to the bedroom and resumed packing. Get out. Lydia's scream split the silence moments later. Zachary gasped. You're yelling at me? His voice cracked in disbelief. You've never yelled at me. How could you? I won't say it again, she snapped. You're not welcome here. Leave. Now. A heavy silence followed. Then the front door slammed so hard it rattled the walls. I finished packing only the essentials, just 2 suitcases. I wasn't taking anything unnecessary with me. Not anymore. As I rolled them into the living room, I saw Lydia standing there alone. Pale, trembling. She rushed over and clutched at the suitcase handle. Don't go. Please. I'm begging you. I looked at her, eyes clear, voice steady. Don't make this harder than it already is. She didn't let go. I gently pulled the suitcase from her grasp and walked toward the door. Just as I stepped outside, her voice came from behind me, shaky, broken. You're never going to forgive me, are you? I paused. Turned around one last time. Goodbye, Lydia. Goodbye to the woman I once loved with everything I had. This is where it ends. May we go our separate ways. And never look back. Because I had already made up my mind to end the relationship, I'd found a new place online in advance. Dragging 2 suitcases behind me, I hailed a cab by the curb. I had just climbed into the back seat when I heard a voice from behind. Wait! Lydia was calling after me, shouting across the street. A second later, my phone rang. Even if we've broken up, can't we at least be friends? She said with a bitter laugh. I finally see it now, she continued. I was such a terrible girlfriend. These past 2 years, I got used to ignoring you. I stopped taking care of you. No wonder you left me. I was awful to you. But I'll change. I'll go back to being the Lydia you fell in love with, no, even better. I won't let you down again. I sighed. There's no point. We've broken up. There's no need to see each other anymore. I hung up. And just like that, my new life began. I settled in quickly, cleaning up the apartment, buying furniture and decorations, getting into the rhythm of work. I started studying for a certification exam on the side. Every day, from the moment I opened my eyes until I collapsed into bed at night, I was busy. Constantly. But I loved it. Life was full, peaceful, and honestly, joyful. I didn't think about Lydia at all. Not once. I didn't wonder about her new relationship, or how she was doing. I truly didn't care anymore. I assumed we'd never see each other again. And that was how I planned it. After all, we were in different fields, different companies. No shared friends, no reason to cross paths. So when I did see Lydia again, I was genuinely surprised. Even more shocking. She was standing right outside my front door. What are you doing here? I blurted out. Coming home, she said, pointing across the street. You're joking. I'm not. She lifted a shopping bag. Just picked up some meat from the market. I'm grilling tonight. Want to join me? Lydia, are you out of your mind? Why would you move here? I'm perfectly sane, she replied, smiling as if this was the most natural thing in the world. I know exactly what I'm doing. You're a grown adult. You should be capable of rational decisions. You own a place. Why would you spend extra money renting an apartment just to live here? Do you have so much cash you don't know where to throw it? Not to mention, your office is on the complete opposite end of the city. Your commute just doubled, at least. You're almost 30. Why are you still making impulsive decisions like a teenager? She smiled faintly. I'm happy that you still care. You're unbelievable, I muttered, turning away. I pulled out my keys, opened the door, and stepped inside, leaving her on the porch. I'm not being impulsive, her voice called from behind me, steady but quiet. And I'm not being irrational either. I just know, if I don't try to win you back, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. She paused. Moving here wasn't some whim. I thought long and hard about it. But the truth is, I didn't know what else to do. I broke your heart. I was awful to you. I don't deserve forgiveness. But even so, I can't let go. I don't want to leave you like this. Just thinking about a future without you, it rips me apart. I can't just stand by and do nothing. Moving into this neighborhood, it's the only way I could think of to be close to you. If you find me annoying, you can ignore me. Just treat me like a regular neighbor. I'll try not to bother you. Honestly, just being nearby, getting to catch a glimpse of you now and then, is enough. If something ever happens, if you're having a bad day and need someone, call me. I'll show up right away. I won't let you down again. I know I disappointed you too many times before. But I'll prove to you, with actions, that I've changed. Renting this new place costs extra. I haven't given up the old apartment, it still holds all our memories, your things. I couldn't bring myself to rent it out. So I left it as it is. And yes, this place is far from my office. It takes 2 or 3 hours just to commute back and forth. By all measures, it's completely impractical. But it's worth it. Being able to see you again, having even the smallest chance of winning you back, it makes every cost worth it. You said it yourself, I'm an adult. I know exactly what I'm doing. Compared to losing you, nothing else matters. I didn't look back. End the lease. Move back. I don't want to give you any false hope. I'm not coming back. That's fine. I won't give up until I hit a wall. And don't feel pressured. This is my choice. Whatever happens, I'll accept it. Even if you never give me another chance, I'll stay right here until I see you fall in love again, until I see you get married. Only then will I let go. Don't try to talk me out of it. I'm not going back. And she meant it. Lydia kept her word, she didn't bother me. Because of her long commute, she had to leave early every morning for work. By the time she came home in the evening, I had already been back for hours. We barely crossed paths at all. It had been a week since I last ran into Lydia by chance that Saturday. We hadn't seen each other since. On Sunday morning, I was heading out to take an exam. After months of consistent studying, I had grown more confident, especially in the last stretch, when practice questions started to feel easier. I double-checked my exam pass, pens, erasers, and other essentials, and left the house feeling relaxed. But that feeling didn't last long. Just 10 minutes later, my mood took a dive. The Uber I'd scheduled in advance had been involved in a minor accident and couldn't make it. I quickly tried to book another ride, twice, but both available drivers were far away and wouldn't arrive in time. When I tried again, the system stopped allowing new bookings altogether. Panic began to bubble up as I stood at the curb, trying to flag down a taxi. But it must have been the weekend rush, every car that passed already had passengers. I'd left home early, thinking I had plenty of time. Now, with each minute slipping by, I could feel dread climbing up my spine. Sweat dripped down my forehead. I considered running to the nearest metro station, but I wasn't sure I'd make it in time. I glanced at my shoes, tight leather loafers. I cursed myself for not wearing something I could run in. Just as I was about to start sprinting, I heard a voice from beside me. "Get in. I'll drive you." It was Lydia. I didn't think. I opened the car door and climbed in. As soon as I sat down, I wiped my sweat with a tissue. Lydia gave me a reassuring look. "You'll be fine. The test starts at 9. We'll make it." "How did you know I had an exam today? And how did you know where it was?" I finally asked, now that the adrenaline had eased up a bit. "I saw how hard you were studying. I looked up the exam schedule online," she said with a soft laugh. "There's only one test center near us. Turns out, it's at our alma mater." "Thank you," I said sincerely. "If it weren't for you, I honestly don't know if I'd have made it." "It's nothing. I'll transfer you the fare later, same as what a cab would have cost." Lydia's voice dipped. "Do we really have to be like this? Even if we're not together anymore, can't we at least be friends? When you treat me like a stranger, it hurts. You know how it is. Exes rarely make good friends. Maybe sensing I didn't want to linger on the subject, Lydia gently changed the topic. You've double-checked your exam pass and supplies, right? Before I could answer, she went on, as long as you didn't forget the exam pass, everything else is manageable. I brought a backup kit, just in case. It's in the drawer next to you. I opened the small side compartment. Inside was a clear folder, neatly packed. 5 black gel pens. 5 2B pencils. 5 erasers. 2 rulers. I turned my head to look at her. Why go through all this? I just want to stay close to you, she said softly, to be there the moment you need me. Her tone was light, almost cheerful. I bought those supplies a while ago, just in case. When I saw you leaving for your exam this morning, I really wanted to drive you, but I figured you'd say no. So I just watched from a distance. Then your ride fell through, and you started looking more and more anxious. I couldn't help it. I drove over. See? I'm still good for something, aren't I? Yeah, I murmured. And said nothing more. When we reached the front gate of the school, I thanked her again. Really? I mean it. Thank you for today. After a quick glance at the exam schedule, I jogged off toward the classroom. 2.5 hours passed in a blur as I focused on answering every question. When I walked back out through the school gate, I saw Lydia waving at me from across the street. You're still here? I asked. I figured it might be hard to get a ride back, so I waited. Been out here for over 2 hours. She smiled before I could say anything. Besides, it's on my way. Don't say no. I'd never seen Lydia so humble before. I happened to have a few things I wanted to say to her anyway, so I nodded. Back in the car, she kept glancing sideways at me, smiling. Keep your eyes on the road, I reminded her. It feels so nice, she said, her smile growing. What does? Having you in my passenger seat again, she replied, almost wistful. I remember when I first got this car, I was so excited I couldn't stop looking around while driving. You scolded me then too, told me to keep my eyes on the road. I remember saying you were my sense of safety. I loved having you next to me, she went on, so how did I ever forget that feeling? Her voice dipped, regretful. I guess I got too comfortable. Life was too easy. I got cocky. People like me, maybe we need a few more setbacks to stay grounded. I was quiet for a moment, then said, You've changed so much, I hardly recognize you anymore. She smiled faintly. You were always a star in my eyes. You were the pride of your small town, she added. Top of your class when you got into college. You won a scholarship every semester. You were student body president. I remember you standing on stage, giving speeches, you practically glowed. I never told you this, she said, her voice soft now, but my feelings for you started with admiration. I turned to look at her. There was a sparkle in her eyes, pure, unmistakable joy. But in the next second, the light in her eyes faded. Because I added, but now, you're not the Lydia I used to know. Your pride, your spark, your confidence, all gone. You've lost yourself just to please someone you love. I used to be like that. And I don't want you to end up the same way. Lydia, no one should ever lose themselves in love. You have to love yourself first, before you can truly love someone else. I've learned how to do that now. And you can too. Silence filled the car. Thick, heavy. It stayed quiet all the way home. Through the elevator ride. Until we reached my door. Then Lydia finally spoke. Thank you. I get it now. I see where I went wrong. Don't worry, I'll focus on myself, I'll work hard, I'll be better. But I'm still not giving up on you. You're worth fighting for. After that, we went back to barely seeing each other. She only texted me once. I just wrapped up a huge project, she wrote. Got promoted. And a raise. See? I didn't lose myself. I'm becoming better, too. I didn't reply. The Christmas holidays were approaching, and I'd made plans to travel to Miami with some friends. 2 days before break, Lydia called. I booked tickets to Hawaii, she said. Didn't you always want to go? I'm not going. I'm heading to Miami with friends, I replied flatly. But this was such a rare opportunity, I got the tickets after waiting so long. Who knows when we'll both be free again? I've already been. What? When? Last May. There was a pause on the other end. Then silence. I knew she remembered. Last May, we'd planned that trip together, Lydia and I, Hawaii. The place I'd dreamed of visiting for years. I'd been so excited, mapping out our itinerary, researching food spots and scenic hikes, packing our gear days in advance. But the night before we were supposed to leave, Lydia got a call from Zachary. He sounded pitiful. Said he was getting an emergency appendectomy the next day. No one to stay with him. Asked her to come. She didn't hesitate. Said yes immediately. I was standing right beside her when she answered. And the shock on my face, well, that said it all. We're supposed to leave for our trip tomorrow, how do you even have time to be at the hospital with him? I asked, my voice cracking. Lydia frowned. Zachary's having surgery. That's serious. He shouldn't be alone. We can go to Hawaii another time. Another time? I almost choked. You've been promising we'd go since college. We've been out of school for 5 years. Where's that promise now? Her patience snapped. Stop being so dramatic. Fun can wait. Surgery can't. Which do you think is more important? I'm your boyfriend. I shouted. Who is he to you? Doesn't he have family? Friends? Why does someone else's girlfriend have to sit with him in the hospital? I'm not arguing with you, she said, already grabbing her purse. I'm going to see Zachary. He's probably scared. The surgery is tomorrow. And just like that, she walked out the door. So, after I left, you still went to Hawaii? Lydia asked. Yeah. I went on my own. Spent 3 days there. By the time I got back, you just brought Zachary home from the hospital. I couldn't quite remember how heartbroken I was anymore, what it felt like to walk through airport security alone, to board the plane solo. But the moment I saw the view from the cliffs, when the ocean stretched endlessly before me, something inside me began to heal. Those 3 days were peaceful. I explored every spot I had dreamed of. And none of it disappointed. I realized then, traveling alone wasn't so bad after all. In fact, I was in a pretty good mood the whole flight home. Until I opened the door to our apartment, and saw Zachary sitting on our couch. Lydia turned around, unfazed. Where've you been? Took you long enough to get back, she said, as if everything was normal. Hey, remember that soup you used to make me when I was sick? Can you make some for Zachary? He needs something light. I stared at her, stunned. You brought him here? To our place? And now you want me to cook for him? He's a patient. Why are you making such a fuss over a sick person? A sick person who has nothing to do with me. Why would I take care of him? And I wheeled my suitcase back out the door without another word. I'm pretty sure Lydia didn't even notice the suitcase. Her eyes were all on Zachary back then. I stayed at my buddy's place for a few days. It wasn't until Zachary had recovered and moved out that Lydia came looking for me. Back then, I still loved her. She offered me a way back, and I took it. Didn't even need coaxing. She never once asked where I'd gone. Never noticed I'd left for Hawaii after all. But the truth is, she didn't notice because she didn't care. I remember bringing back a few beautiful wind chimes from Hawaii, sleek, painted with subtle colors, all marked with the resort logo. I hung them by the window in our bedroom. They were impossible to miss. But she never noticed them. Not once. Every time I think back on the past 2 years, Lydia said with a bitter smile, I just want to slap myself. I treated you so badly. I really was the worst. I don't even know what to do anymore. The more I think about it, the more I feel like I don't deserve your forgiveness. Her voice trembled, heavy with remorse. You should cancel the plane ticket, she added quietly. The world's too big to waste time revisiting old places. Miami was a blast. It had been ages since I'd felt this free, no knots in my stomach, no invisible weight dragging me down. Just good friends, warm sun, and the thrill of discovering new places. I posted snapshots of the scenery and little stories on social media as we went. Lydia liked every single one of them, within seconds. That night, we stayed in at the hotel and played party games. Loser gets a sticky note on the nose. I lost. A lot. After one particularly unlucky round, the girl sitting across from me, a gorgeous brunette with a mischievous grin, grabbed the biggest sticky note and marched over. She slapped it right on my forehead as my buddy snapped a photo. He sent it to me, and I laughed so hard I posted it to Instagram, along with a few other pictures from the night. Just silly moments. Nothing serious. Then Lydia called. Her voice was off, too soft, too loose. She'd clearly been drinking. I told you. I don't mind staying close to you, she murmured. Even if I can't win you back, I'll never regret trying. I thought I could handle it, watching you move on, fall in love again, maybe even get married to someone else. I told myself I'd smile through it, be the bigger person. But now, I'm scared. I used to get upset when I saw a coworker sitting in your car. And tonight, watching you play games with another woman, she laughed bitterly, I drank alone until everything blurred. I was jealous of the people near you. They get to hear your laughter. See your smile up close. You're amazing. You're beautiful. And now that you're single, of course other great women will chase after you. How am I supposed to watch that happen? Her voice cracked. And then she just kept whispering the same line, over and over. I messed up. Please don't leave me. You're drunk, I said softly. Get some rest. And I hung up. The next day around noon, my buddies and I had just wrapped up a round of sightseeing and were heading back to the hotel for a nap. That's when I saw her, Lydia, standing at the front entrance. She winked at me. Saw your pictures online. Looked like you were having fun. So I booked a last-minute flight and came over. Turns out your hotel still had a room, so I got one too. I didn't say a word. Just walked toward the lobby. She trailed behind me like nothing was wrong, chatting away. Since I didn't plan anything ahead of time, I figured maybe I could just shamelessly tag along with you guys. You pick the spots and plan the routes, I'll cover all the expenses. Fair deal, right? I rolled my eyes. Not interested. But she didn't get the message. For the next 2 days, Lydia followed us everywhere. Where we went, she went. When we ate, she grabbed the bill before anyone else could. If I lingered too long admiring a trinket in a street stall, she'd go ahead and buy it for me without a second thought. Even my friends began to soften. She really seems sincere, one of them said. Maybe give her another shot? I just shook my head. That afternoon, we were wandering down a local artisan street, full of small stalls and colorful crafts. My buddy and I were bent over a display of embroidered belts when the commotion started. We heard yelling, screams, then chaos. Before we could react, a horse, wild-eyed and foaming at the mouth, came barreling down the narrow road. It looked spooked, out of control, charging without any sense of direction. The moment I saw it coming, I instinctively turned to sprint toward a nearby shop. Then, "Watch out!" Lydia screamed. She lunged at us, shoving me and my friend through the shop entrance with all her strength. She didn't make it inside. She fell hard on the pavement, arms outstretched, just as the horse stormed past. It barely missed trampling her, one hoof catching her knee with a sickening thud before galloping off down the street. The marketplace fell into stunned silence. Vendors stared, frozen in place, debris strewn everywhere. Lydia lay motionless on the ground. I rushed to her side. "Are you okay?" She shook her head, wincing. "My knee, it hurts." I looked down and saw blood soaking through her jeans. "We need to get you to a hospital. Now." With my friend's help, we half-carried her to the nearest main road and flagged down a taxi. At the hospital, the doctor confirmed a minor fracture. Nothing too serious, but she'd need time and care to heal. We dressed the wound and headed back to the hotel, our sightseeing plans cut short. After injuring her knee, Lydia applied to work from home. She got hurt because of me. I couldn't just leave her on her own. Initially, I planned to help by ordering her breakfast and lunch, then going over in the evening to cook dinner. But every night when I arrived, dinner was already on the table. Watching her limp around the kitchen made me feel helpless. "You shouldn't be moving around like this." We agreed. "I'd cook when I get off work." "It's nothing," she said with a smile. "You've been working all day. No need to tire yourself out even more at night. I can manage with crutches. It's not like I'm bedridden." After we ate, I ignored her protests and insisted on doing the dishes. As I was leaving, I saw her about to get up to walk me to the door. "Don't," I said, firm. "Just sit. Don't move." I had just reached the door when she called out, "Wait, I have something for you. Don't get up." "What is it?" "I'll grab it." I stopped her quickly. "It's in the fridge. I made a chocolate cake. I spent half the day figuring it out from a recipe. It's my first time making one. I haven't tasted it, so I don't know if it's any good." My hand paused on the fridge door. Inside sat a small chocolate cake. I picked it up, said nothing, and quietly closed the door behind me as I left. Back in my apartment, I placed the cake on the table and just stared at it. Frosted with cream, beautifully shaped, visually perfect. Tempting. She said it was her first attempt, and it turned out this good? Habits are strange things. I couldn't even remember the last time I had chocolate cake. And yet it used to be my absolute favorite. After we moved in together, I found out Lydia didn't like it at all. Not just dislike, she hated it. But I loved chocolate cake. Always had. As a kid, every time I aced a test, my mom would reward me with a slice of chocolate cake. For me, it was more than dessert, it was a cherished ritual. A small celebration of success. But Lydia never let me have it at home. We argued about it. More than once. Frustrated, I snapped at her, "You're allergic to eating chocolate, not seeing it or smelling it. Why can't I have it at home?" "I'm physically disgusted by chocolate," she insisted. "I get nauseous just seeing it. The smell makes me sick." After several fights, I gave in. I didn't want every little thing turning into a conflict. But every argument led to days of Cold War. And those silent nights? They tore me up inside. Later on, I started eating chocolate cakes, chocolate bars, outside the apartment. Sometimes, I'd order dessert at work. A little indulgence on the side. Eventually, I began thinking about chocolate less and less. To the point where I'd nearly forgotten it used to be a favorite of mine. I honestly couldn't remember the last time I had chocolate cake. And yet, Lydia still remembered. It was clear she was trying to make amends. She was making an effort to pay back what she owed me, piece by piece. I saw everything she did these past weeks. I wasn't blind. In Miami, too, when danger struck, her first instinct was to protect me. She didn't hesitate to risk getting hurt just to shove me out of harm's way. And then, there was the cake. She forced herself to deal with the chocolate she once found disgusting, just so she could bake something I used to love. I was supposed to be the one taking care of her while she recovered. But every night, she'd already prepared dinner by the time I arrived, limping, balancing on crutches, smiling like it was nothing. She really was trying. She wanted me back. Even my buddy teased, maybe you should just take her back. Honestly, I think you two still have a shot. To tell the truth, I saw her sincerity. But I just couldn't turn back. I was afraid. I'd been through too much, neglect, emotional coldness, that awful numb silence. The scars hadn't healed. I couldn't take the risk again. Sure, Lydia had changed. But what if? What if we got back together, and years from now, she grew tired again? What if one day, she slipped back into the same indifference? I couldn't handle that, not again. I didn't trust that I'd survive a second round. I'd worked so hard to move on. I couldn't go through that all over again. She had shattered my illusions about love. Now I didn't even have the strength to try. And most of all, I knew I didn't love her anymore. I never did eat that chocolate cake. Eventually, I tossed it in the trash. It had been so long, I couldn't handle the sweetness anymore. Just the smell made my stomach turn. That night, I called my landlord. Told her I wouldn't be renewing the lease after these last 3 months. This had to stop. I needed to cut it clean, no mixed signals, no dangling hope. I even started considering an idea: what if I hired a fake girlfriend? Maybe that would make Lydia give up completely. The next day, I realized, I might not need to do anything after all. Because right across the hall, I saw Zachary. He was banging on Lydia's door. She was probably inside, but she didn't answer. When he noticed me, his eyes sharpened like blades. Ha! I knew it. I was wondering why she suddenly moved. Of course, it's you. I thought you two broke up. Why the hell are you still clinging to her? He shouted. Why? She clearly loves me. So why is she ignoring me now? She blocked me on every platform. I changed numbers just to call her, but the moment she heard my voice, she hung up. She even moved out. I couldn't find her anywhere. I've been staking out her office for days, but she never comes through the front. She must be sneaking in through the back just to avoid me. If I hadn't had someone tail her, I'd still have no idea she moved here. Then he looked up suddenly, eyes burning with rage. It's you. You seduced her, didn't you? I'm warning you, back off. Lydia loves me. She can't stand you. Remember that time you had the flu? She couldn't even be bothered to go home to check on you. All she wanted was to watch movies with me. I simply said, well, good luck to you both. Back in my apartment, I could still hear Zachary yelling through the thin walls. Lydia, open up. It's me, Zachary. Don't ignore me, please. The building had awful insulation. Sitting in my living room, I could hear the steady thud of his fists pounding on her door. He had remarkable stamina. His shouting and banging continued, on and off, until nearly 11 at night. After showering, I noticed it had gone quiet for a while. Curious, I walked over to the door and peeked out through the peephole. What I saw startled me. Zachary had passed out, lying motionless on the floor, eyes closed tight. Just as I was about to open my door to check on him, Lydia's door swung open. Her face was pale with panic when she saw him lying there. She immediately pulled out her phone and dialed 911. Her voice trembled as she recited the address. After the call, she crouched down and, with great effort, dragged Zachary into her apartment. I had no idea if something serious had happened to him. But I didn't feel like calling Lydia to ask. So I waited in my living room. Waited until 1 in the morning. But nothing happened. No ambulance sirens from downstairs. No hallway commotion. There was no way it was traffic, it's the middle of the night. Even the farthest hospital should have sent someone by now. That could only mean one thing. The ambulance had been cancelled. What kind of situation leads to an ambulance getting cancelled? There's really only one answer: Zachary must have woken up quickly. And he was fine. After these past 2 years, I've come to understand the kind of person he is. So it's not hard for me to guess, his collapse earlier was just an act. A performance designed to get Lydia to open the door. To trigger her guilt, her instinct to protect. Did Lydia see through it? It doesn't really matter anymore. If Lydia didn't see through Zachary's act, then that means she never truly recognized who he was, even after all these years. That would reflect poorly on her judgment, on her character. But knowing her history, being the student body president back in college, naturally skilled in social interaction, that possibility seems unlikely. If she can read other people well, but still failed to recognize Zachary's performance, then there's only one explanation: when emotions get involved, logic flies out the window. She has feelings for Zachary that cloud her reason. Or maybe, from the very first moment, she did see it. But she still panicked. Because what if he wasn't faking? What if something really had happened? She didn't want to take that chance. And even after realizing it was probably just a stunt, she still didn't throw him out. Which means, she couldn't bring herself to be cold to him. Whatever the case may be, one thing is clear: she hasn't let him go completely. There are still lingering feelings. I analyzed all of this calmly, without any emotion. Even if they get back together, it has nothing to do with me. All I felt was relief that I had stayed firm from beginning to end. I hadn't softened toward Lydia. I hadn't given her another chance. After that night, Lydia stopped contacting me. I never saw her come or go from the apartment across the hall again. Maybe she moved out. If so, good. That saves me the trouble of moving out myself. A little over a month later, I got a call from Lydia. All I could hear through the receiver were muffled sobs, her breath catching between each broken word. That night. I should have never let Zachary inside. He said he was dizzy. The moment he stepped in, he pretended to collapse. I tried to get him to leave, but he begged me, over and over. He said he just wanted to see me one last time. That he'd be gone the next morning and never come back. Her voice trembled. I believed him. But I was wrong. When I wasn't paying attention, he drugged my water. There was silence on the line. Then, with a gasp between sobs, she finally spoke the words she had been choking on. When I woke up, he had already violated me. He cried afterward. Said he was sorry. That he did it because he couldn't bear to lose me. But to me, everything was ruined. And I knew then, I no longer had any right to chase after you. She was falling apart on the other end of the line. The next day, I went to the police. I pressed charges. I took him to court. Zachary was convicted. He's serving time. He's paying for what he did. She paused, breath shaking. But no matter what happens to him, I've been broken. I don't deserve to come back into your life. It was my stupidity. I gave him that chance. I moved out after that. Cut him off completely. I'm sorry, Elliot. It's better if we don't see each other again. From now on, we live our separate lives. One evening, after work, I walked into my apartment and noticed something on the floor by the door. An envelope, slipped through the gap. I picked it up, puzzled. Who still writes letters in this day and age? I tore it open. The handwriting was instantly familiar. Elliot, I'm gone. I'm sorry. I can't keep my promises anymore. Someone like me doesn't deserve to stand beside you. I've lost the right to protect you, forever. I've resigned. I'm going back home. This time, it really is goodbye. Wishing you happiness, always. The girl who loved you more than anything.